trauma of having been bullied as a child, just never went away, and I just so need approval.
Let's be best friends.
Hello, I'm Cole Sauer, and welcome to Let's Be Best Friends, a podcast where I talk to people that I barely know and try to convince them to be my new best friends, because in times like these, who needs enemies? My guest today is Etobicoke's 2018 top comic and recently signed to Comic Sans Productions, Mr. Mike Payne. How are you doing today, Mike?
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Hey, how's it
Good
going?
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Woo! I love how excited people are whenever I introduce them. It makes me feel good.
Oh, me?
Oh, me!
It's just old me.
This is little old. I feel like today is going to divulge. If I know anything from the conversations we've had previously, it's just going to divulge into us doing stupid voices.
Yeah, it's going to be like really bad knockoff impression.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be the worst open mic impressionist comic you know. It's gonna be great.
Oh, baby. Ooh. All right,
that's actually so good. Okay, welcome to Let's Be Best Friends. On the show, for anyone who's watching for the first time with us, we ask questions based on common conversation starters that we find on the internet and questions that you ask on social media. So you can do that by either commenting right in the comments below or by tweeting, DMing, Instagram, however you like to do it, at OldKingCake on any social media. I read all the comments. I read all the tweets you guys send in. So send them in, and your question might just end up on the show. First, we start off with Larry King always said the 5 questions you have to answer in any interview are who, what, where, when, and why. So I want to start at the basis. Mike, who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm Mike Payne. I'm a Toronto-based comedian and house painter by day, which is most of what I do these days because we're in the middle of a crazy pandemic. Mm-hmm. I'm born and raised in Toronto. I don't know. What else do you want to know?
6. So I normally ask, what do you do? So you say you're a house painter. So did you go to school for any kind of comedy or performance, or did you go like straight trade school, house painting, and then ended up in comedy?
Neither of those things. I'm an artist by trade.
Okay.
I've been drawing since I was a very, very young child. I went to an art major high school. I had an art major in high school at Central Tech, so I did half my day in art for all of high school, and then I ended up going to school for video game design, college for video design in my 20s, and I've worked as a graphic designer, web designer, and at one point I was a creative director in a very small marketing company. But before that, I did spend a lot of time as a house painter, and when I started doing comedy, I switched back to house painting because I was finding a lot of the same kind of creative thought processes go into comedy as they do into design or art. Mm-hmm. And so let's kind of save it for comedy because I love comedy. It's the greatest thing I've ever done.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, in my design career, I guess notable things that I've done. I helped design the background behind Ron and Don and Coach's Corner, not the current one. It was like, well, there is no current one because obviously Don is out. I designed the background behind them, and I did all the on-set graphics for 2003's NHL Awards.
Shit!
And I did all the on-set graphics for the 2008 Canada Votes on CBC. Wow! So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
So no small potatoes there. So take me through the journey here a little bit then. So you were an artist, you got into house painting, and then graphic design, marketing, back into house painting. And so how do you get started in comedy from there? How do you go from art, marketing, advertising, comedy?
I always felt like something was missing from my life. I did perform in high school in a couple plays, and not in any major capacity either. Like I was like sanitarium attendant in Dracula. Huge role, right? But I just felt like there was something missing artistically in my life. I was raised by 2 artists who met at OCA, or OCAD as they call it now. And so that was just always a thing I could do. My dad was a pretty prominent production designer for CBC.
Oh, cool.
And So yeah, that was kind of a nepotistic, I guess, way into the industry to a certain degree.
Gotta have a way in.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, this must be the thing I'm supposed to do because it's multi-generational and it's something I can do and I'm pretty good at.
Mm-hmm.
But it never really drove me to get up in the morning and want to do it all the time.
Mm.
And that's what I found with comedy. Yeah, so I switched jobs back to house painting because it pays enough to be able to afford a car and a household. At the time, I was helping my now ex-wife just get by because she was going through some strife.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just something that I could do that was also physical as well to give me those nice, good feeling endorphins.
Right. So yes,
like
so pays the bills, get you up, but then comedy's the main is that thing that gives you that spark.
Yeah, that's the every night. So, you know, you do 40 hours a week at painting, and then every, 6 to 7 nights a week I'm doing comedy,
Wow.
Multiple, etc.
Okay, so where was your first show? Where were you doing your first show?
My first show was at Yuck Yucks
Oh wow.
in downtown Toronto. Yeah, I was just like, if I'm really going to do it, then I should start somewhere that I really like. And if it's only once, it's going to be on the stage that I really wanted to be on, because at the time the only times I've ever been to a comedy club was I'd been to Absolute Comedy once, and I'd been to Yuck Yucks a whole series of times. Like I spent my 30th birthday at Yuck Yucks watching as Anthony Jeselnik kicks out Oliver Jewelry's kid. That was amazing, by the way. That was an incredible experience.
Holy shit.
Yeah. He's Oliver Jewelry's kid is just, I don't even know his name. He's just heckling, and you see Anthony Jeselnik just go, "Who the fuck are you?"
Wow, no way.
And people around him are like, "Oh, he's like Oliver Jewelry's kid," and he's like, "Oh, okay. Who the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. He dismantled him and then kicked him out.
See, you mean the Cash Man guy, right? I'm the Cash Man.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god.
Anyone
an
listening to this outside of the GTA would not know who that is. But it's basically the local jeweler who has those really crappy, cheesy commercials that everybody ends up loving anyway. Well, anyway, I'm talking about his kid, his spoiled little piece of shit kid.
That's crazy. Because it's fun. Because I knew about I guess I'm gonna keep calling him Oliver Jewelry. I knew about he's apparently also an asshole because my dad was a contractor and he worked with him, and I remember he was like oh yeah, I worked with Oliver Jewelry, and I was like oh cool, like was he okay? And he was like no, the worst piece of shit ever. So I'm not surprised that his kid's like that too. It's crazy how mild amounts of fame and success can go to not only like your head but also your kid's head. Like imagine being like, do you know who my dad is? He's the Cash Man. He painted himself silver on local television. Okay.
Yeah. Give me your gold. I have an accent. It'll work out. That's his whole sales thing. He's like, I sound British.
Yeah. Man.
You can trust me.
We could do a whole show just shitting on local GTA commercials.
We should do another one that is that.
It's just us watching local access commercials and shitting on them.
Or we could do that on my podcast.
Yeah.
I just thought of an hour ago.
I love that. I love the idea, and I want to get to that. I do want to get to talking about it because we talked about it before the show, and I want to talk about it on the show because I think it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, for sure.
First show was at Yuck Yucks. How does one get their first show at like an open mic, or like do you know a guy?
It was the Pro-Am. So it was all that happened. So I'll give you the story. A friend of mine came for a visit from Miami in November of, 2017, 2016? 2016.
Okay.
And it was the first snowfall of the year. He'd never seen snow, so that was kind of cool for him.
That's
cool. But there was nothing really to do. Everything kind of slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went to Yuck Yucks, and it was, a quarter full. And we watched these guys perform, and I guess they must have been doing some new stuff overall, because I felt like a lot of them weren't that great.
Mm-hmm.
I won't name names because I actually know these people now.
That's the weird part about being in comedy, right?
Well, yeah, and I realized after having done it for a little while is they were probably just trying new things because there were literally very little audience. which makes sense to me to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I watched that and I was like, okay, well, I'm funnier than these guys. Well, let's give it a try. And over the next month, I wrote my first 5 minutes, which was gross.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty gross. I mean, I do some kind of edgy, sort of gross stuff sometimes, but I try to have purpose with it,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you're brand new, a lot of people start from the gross and kind of move on out from there.
Yeah, well, they start with what they know, right? And especially so you were starting what? So when did you start exactly?
So I started. It was January 21st, 2017.
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
it's 3.5 years ago, and I followed Nigel Grinstead.
Oh, wow.
Who is an amazing comedian. I had no idea who he was. He's just like this skinny, like guy. And we've since done quite a few shows with him, which has been great.
Yeah, funny. He's a funny dude. If anyone doesn't know, he's another Toronto comedian.
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah, he's really, really funny. So
you've only started 3 years ago, so relatively new to the comedy game then.
Yeah, 3.5 years ago. I started really late. But I've had a lot of success pretty early on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's other skills in life that you gain, that are applicable to comedy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Such as being responsible enough to own a vehicle to be able to go touring Ontario in. That's a really good one to have.
Yeah, well, it's the age old thing, right? Comedians don't know no comedians drive, and the one that does drives everyone around.
Yeah, and gets all the spots. Yeah,
it's true.
Like,
it's true.
How that works. Yeah.
Even when I started, it was like, oh, I can drive, so I can go like here, and here, and I was getting spots I was like in no way qualified to be getting.
Right. Yeah. There's always those shows where you're like, I don't deserve to be here.
Yeah. It's like, oh, how long have you been doing comedy? Oh, I've been doing it for 10 years. I just got off tour. Oh, I just put my album out. How long have you been doing it? It's been like a month, couple months ish.
Yeah, exactly. I started with Cliff Knight actually. He and I were cool. Cliff and I are pretty good friends, and it's cool to see because he's like one of the only guys that I see that started right then that is still doing it after 3 years, which isn't very long.
What's the cutoff time? Do you think between, because you're a fairly like newer comedian than some of the other guests that I've had so far. So where do you think the general line is? Because I've heard people say like, oh, if I don't make it in a year, 2 years, 5 years.
Well, I think those are all silly things to say.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone works a little bit differently. And also, yes, I am newer than some, so take this with a grain of salt. But making it's like, I know very few people who've actually made it,
mm-hmm.
It really just depends on your criteria. So for me, I want to make my living solely from comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll admit it at that point. And it'll probably take me to like 10, 15 years,
mm-hmm.
Because that seems to be the average. So the average seems to be 8 years before you're good at comedy, and then 10 years plus before you can really start to make your living at it. But also other comedians who've been doing it for longer have said, well, it comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
So like you end up making all your money from comedy for a 2-year period, and then things kind of fall apart sometimes, and you move in with your parents, and then you have to do it again. It's just pure passion, man.
Yeah.
Like it really is. There's nothing that I know of that's quite like it, other than maybe professional sports to a certain degree. But they still have a much clearer cut system to get recognized.
Yeah,
like,
it's much more established scholarships and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm like, for me, I'm really frustrated with myself for not being better with like Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that, because I'm so far behind. Like there's the whole, with comedy, there's almost like a race social media wise, and this might be my own perception, so take this with a grain of salt as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the race to have numbers, like the race to have 5,000 friend cap on Facebook, so that you're in some way more recognizable. So you just end up adding like friends of friends and stuff like that, and it feels really weird. And then or the same thing with Instagram. You want thousands and thousands, if not millions, of followers
mm-hmm.
In order to start to get traction. Because the only thing that really seems to put butts in seats these days is that. Like you look at the so I did a show last year I've done a few shows with Ian Lynch from Edge 102. He's a comedian as well as a DJ on there. Really nice guy. Sorry?
I didn't know that. I've heard of him before because I went to college for broadcasting, so you hear a lot of different radio personalities. I didn't know he was a comedian.
He's an on-air personality.
Yeah.
So he was running this show last year on Sundays. It was called After Dark, I believe, or Comedy After Dark. After Dark is the name of the bar that now closed. And it was on a Sunday night, and it was sold out. I was like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
So, first of all, it's because it's Ian Lynch, because he's recognizable and has his own weight.
Mm-hmm.
But also, half of the people on the lineup were YouTube comedians. And I didn't know them, at all, because they're not involved in the actual stand-up community at all.
Yeah, they're not in the scene.
No, and it's a different thing. And you watch them go up, and they get some laughs, but it's a different thing. Like, it really isn't the same thing.
Uh-huh.
They don't understand. I don't think they have an innate understanding of timing or cueing audiences and stuff like that with body language or any of the finer points of actual comedy. They're used to looking at a camera and telling their jokes. That being said, I don't watch YouTube comedians, not because I don't like them. It's just because I haven't done it yet, and I'm old. So,
well, it's interesting that you say that about the YouTube comedians, because it's almost the exact opposite of what we're seeing now with the Zoom shows, is that these comedians who have been doing it for 5, 10, however many years and are so experienced in feeding off of crowds and body language and stuff like that are having trouble doing the Zoom thing because it's so different. It's night and day, right?
Yeah. I've done a handful of shows, and I've had one where I actually felt like a comedian, but that's because in workshop we were working on jokes kind of publicly with an audience. And that was fantastic. That's Scott Porteous. Shout out to Scott Porteous. His show, I think it's just called The Workshop. And it's one where he assigns you, so you pick a number between 1 and 10, and it corresponds to just a random topic that he's chosen. So I did 5 minutes on medieval times, and I kept saying dinner and tournament, it's just silly stuff. And then after that, you get to do 5 minutes of stuff that you've just been working on in general, and it was really good, and it was nice to connect with those people. Plus, Scott laughs a lot, so it does feel more real. But yeah, the other Zoom shows that I've done, a couple of them were all right, and then one of them in particular, I was hosting, and I hadn't hosted a show on there, and I bombed pretty hard.
I think the host spot, more so than even regularly, is the hardest thing to do on a Zoom show.
Well, it's generally the hardest position on a show in general. But yeah, with Zoom in particular, I think it's more of an administrative. Okay, is everybody logged in? Does everybody understand how to even use this thing?
Yeah.
Audience members, can you hear yourselves? Can you play with your mics? Instructive. And try to make some kind of a joke out of that. I think that's what I would do going forward if I was to host another show on Zoom. That being said, they're not the most comfortable experience.
No, I keep saying it because I try and keep up to date with the scene and all that, and especially now I know people in the scene, so I try and support, right? But it feels so, I don't want to say impossible, but it feels so much harder, especially for people who've been doing like traditional stage stand-up for their entire time doing stand-up, because it is so different.
Yeah, for sure. So in that way, there is an advantage to the younger comedian or the newer comedian. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that the real hang up there is the just almost like stubbornness, the idea that this is not how this is supposed to be. It's named stand-up, it should be stand-up, but it's not stand-up. It's online shows or online comedy. I don't know what you would call it even.
It's like you say, it's closer to something like streaming or like making like a YouTube show or something like that. It's an entirely different mentality. So who, what, where? So the last one is why. I always put down, why do you do the thing you do? So I think the way I want to kind of extrapolate that for you is, so you said that because you've worn a lot of hats, right? Graphic design, marketing, house printing, a lot of hats. What is it about comedy you think that lights that fire, that puts the energy in you?
I think it takes all the different little things that I've or skills that I've developed over my over my life and kind of puts them into one place. And I don't mean like hard skills. I don't mean like drawing or painting or creating something physical, but I mean all the social skills that you've developed. I've done sales. I've done, as you said, marketing as well. I did collections at one point. That's another really screwed up one. Hardens you in some ways. It's very strange. Aside from that, what other skills? I guess less skills, but just more damage, you know? Yeah. The trauma of having been bullied as a child, just never went away, and I just so need approval. I really do. I always need people to be. That's a good thing you did there, Mike. I'm like, oh, thanks, Dad. I just finished jerking off. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh shit! You okay?
Yeah, so it brings together all those skills and all in the the little hinder trauma in there, and it's just like the perfect makeup of getting basically high without getting high on stage. There's
endorphins, right?
Nothing more powerful than the dopamine dump you get after making a full crowd like lose their minds.
And that's true for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm chasing that dragon continually, but also I really enjoy learning new skills. And this is such a multifaceted, lifelong kind of learning thing, like thing you have to, that I feel like it's going to challenge me continually. And there will come a time where I'm like, I think I got this thing down. And then 2 weeks later, I'll be like, why aren't these crooked jokes working anymore? It's going to be a challenge, I think, on and on for the rest of my life. I love that.
You said something to that effect that actually I want to touch on. You said, that you don't get good at comedy until after 8 years?
No, that's just like an average thing that I've heard from people over time. I don't think that's true. I think it's just people learn at different rates. And so, or there's talent too. Some people have more or less talent than others, and so you're going to pick it up faster than other people too. But also finding your voice takes a lot of time. Like I'm still figuring stuff out, And, I know there's been several comedians who've told me that they didn't really figure out their voice until about 12 years in.
Wow.
That's a long time. Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge thing with performing, right? Especially performing your own, because, comedy isn't performing in the same way that acting is, where you're performing someone else's stuff, so you can kind of...
You're just doing you.
Yeah, you're assigned a character, whereas in comedy, you have to create your character, your voice, and how you want it to come off.
Yeah. You're the architect of the whole thing. So when I think that probably makes that dopamine hit that much sweeter when because it gets big. It's like, haha, 100% me.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
And that's when those terrible joke thieves out there are like, haha, 50% me.
So we've hit our Larry King 5 pillars, which I always like to start with, and so on the show we always try and do something that is applicable to the guest. I always ask our guests who come on, what is it that they want to do while we talk? What's going to make them the most comfortable as we talk? And you chose drawing, and so I was going to ask as specifically why drawing, but I guess now that we've had a bit more conversation, there's a lot of art kind of in your blood. So yeah, you wanted to do a caricature drawing. Is there any specific reason for that?
I think it's a carnival style caricature is what I was talking about, because they're fun. There's no right or wrong, and it doesn't matter your skill level that much, really. So like, because I don't know whether you draw or not. Do you draw?
I used to draw a lot more than I do now. I consider myself slightly below average.
Okay, that's okay. I think when it comes to drawing in this style, there's no right or wrong, so you're going to do great anyway. And it's just fun. It's casual. It should never be about, like, this is the one thing I'm not really worried about approval with. So it's just something casual. We can talk during it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna pull my canvas up. You're gonna adjust for your canvas there. So for the folks at home, our lovely artist Mike Payne's got all of his professional tools set up. He's got his art pad, his marker, his iPad with the picture reference. I've got Photoshop open, as you can see here, and I have this lovely picture. I'm using Mike Payne's Facebook profile. He's using one of my honestly favorite pictures of me that's ever been taken.
It's an amazing picture. Look at this picture. Look at this handsome stud here.
It's such a raw, emotional picture.
Unbathed, late for work, handsome stud.
I was so burned out that day.
That's okay, man. You worked at State.
Oh God! Don't even remind me.
Is that your last job? Is that the job you had before all this went down?
Yeah, and I got called back, which is, gonna be fun, fresh, and exciting.
Is it one of the jobs where, I hate to ask it like this, but is it one of those jobs where you're making less than the CERP?
100% yes.
That's so fucked up, man. That is so fucked up.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The fact that even with the increased minimum wage, you're not making that. That's fucked up.
It's crazy to me because when the Staples is reopened like 2 weeks ago or something like that. They reopened to public long before I've gotten called back. So I was starting to be like, oh, maybe I've been like quietly furloughed. And the people I knew from work kept being like, oh, have you got called back yet? And I kept being like, oh no. And they're like, oh, that sucks. And I'm like, I'm getting paid more to sit at home, make podcasts and stream, which is like what I want to do. So I don't know. I'm not pressed about it.
No, that's fine. And I think you're using your time better than a lot of people have been, including myself during this. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to spend our time. It's funny. I started doing proper proportions immediately, and I'm like, what am I doing? Follow your own directions, Mike. Like, do carnival style. Just do it.
I haven't done a caricature because when I was younger, I used to do a lot more art than I do now as a person. So like I was the kind of kid who in our class was like, yeah, like teach me everything. I want to learn perspective.
I want to learn chiaroscuro.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for Leonardo da Vinci, it's good enough for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I remember they taught me caricature, and I was like, oh, this is so much fun. And I haven't done it since. So that's why another reason why when you brought it up, I was like, oh, that sounds great.
All right. So I'm just doing a little bit of blocking with the pen. Like you can see here, I'm just using blue ballpoint pen because if I was to scan it in, or take a really good photograph and put it into my computer and put in Photoshop, I could take out the blue pretty easily just by selecting the color.
Oh, that's interesting. You could just wipe the blue out.
You can wipe the blue out. It's not quite as delicate. Like, it's not quite as quick cut as that, but it gets pretty close.
Yeah.
So now I'm switching over to good old-fashioned Sharpie. This one's so it's a Bic Magic. Ooh. Sorry, Bic. I meant Bic. It's not Sharpie. Although it's Sharpie Bic.
That's something that you would think I would know, and yet I don't.
You work at Thing, so you figure, yeah.
You'd think if I haven't been at work in like a month and a half, so I've lost a lot of.
You know what? I'm actually really proud of you for forgetting that. I am. I think that it's a positive thing.
I think so. I think so too. I try to not get not get too absorbed in
day job.
Yeah, because when I was younger and just I worked all through college. I worked full time in kitchens and restaurants, and like I put so much effort into it, and I was always so stressed and upset because I was like, oh, my job sucks, and I work so hard, and I was like, why? Like, I don't care about this job. Why am I putting this much, to pain into it? You know what I mean? Yeah, blood, sweat, and tears. You don't need to, man. So I think like it's just I tend to take what I'm doing pretty seriously because I over serious eyes. I take every if I'm spending my time on something, I'm like, it better be worth it. It's just not a positive. And so I get really wrapped up in getting good at day job nonsense. Mm-hmm. And
when things don't work out or when I get reprimanded for something stupid. I take it too seriously, and I'm like, why? Just relax. It doesn't really matter. It's okay.
Yeah, right?
I get a paycheck. This is not my career.
I think that's something that it's, I mean, it's a hard thing to get to. And, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily the absolute right way to look at it, you know, because who knows, right? But I remember the reason I knew that I like was in the right direction is because I told my mom always gets very worried about me because I have a tendency to stretch myself kind of thin.
Oh, yeah.
So she was like, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this podcast, I'm doing this streaming thing, blah, blah, blah. And like, I had started all this stuff up before quarantine happened. And she was like, okay, well, like, you don't want to stretch yourself too thin. Like, you gotta think of things to focus on. So then I called her back the next day and I was like, I've decided I'm going to stop focusing on work. And she was like, okay.
Nice.
And I did not see that coming. I was going to be
basically saying, Mom, I will need you periodically.
Yeah, exactly.
I will need your help.
And you may not say no. Okay.
Because you support me in my life.
So we're getting a good start. Your start is definitely better than mine.
It's not comparative, man. We're just making art. It's okay.
So I want to get into our first question of the day, our first official question of the day. It's from conversationstarterworld.com. Huge friend of the show. Please sponsor me. And it reads, if you had intro music, what would your song be?
I had intro music. What's that? You know what? I really like Solid Wall of Sound.
Ooh, okay.
By A Tribe Called Quest.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, it uses a sample from oh god, I'm blanking on one of the most famous singers in the world, Elton John. Uses an Elton John. Yeah, just a quick sample from it, and it's just Solid Wall of Sound, and they repeat it over and over again. Really good hip hop beat, cool. And it's really hard. And then there's this one point, I think it's like a minute and 53 seconds in, is like where I would have it start for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought about this before.
Are you a big hip hop guy then? Are you, because Tribe Called Quest a little?
You know, I came to hip hop late. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and it was such a good time, like gangster rap and everything else. But I remember being, you know, a kid who loved rock and roll and like, or alternative, I guess, was the big thing for me at the time. Like, I listened to a lot of Radiohead growing up. Nice. And I felt like I kind of missed out. I didn't really appreciate it until I watched this thing called I listened to this thing called Brooklyn Radio's History of Hip Hop.
Okay.
And it really just gave me like this Cole's Notes just way to really get into it. It goes year by year. So it's like, you know, it starts off in like 1978 and there's like, it'll take you through a few defining tracks for that year. Mm-hmm. By no means is this like the be all and end all source, but it's just what got me into it. Right. Mm-hmm. It take you through the 90s and up until, I think it goes up until about 2008, 2009. So nothing past that because it's all still considered modern, right?
Yeah. Very cool. So
okay.
What are
you into? Hip-hop?
I'm an everything kind of guy. I also came to hip hop a little late. I didn't really get into hip hop until like college. Same thing as you. I was very into like alt rock. I don't know if you can tell. I'm a bit of a grunge kind of guy.
You're grungy?
I'm a bit of a grungy kind of guy. I don't know if you can tell by the long hair and the disheveled face. But yeah, like when I was a kid, I listened to so much like just like angry, you know, loud rock and roll, you know, typical suburban white kid. And then as I got older, I was kind of listening to hip hop, but I didn't have a lot of friends who listened to it, so I didn't like, you know where to start.
So mostly just Weezer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an inside joke for anybody who doesn't know. James O'Hara is a Weezer fanatic. He has like 20 minutes of material on Weezer.
Oh, the funny thing is that you've heard 20 minutes of it. He has way more than that.
Does he really? He should stop that.
I remember...
That's too much.
I remember when he first got into it, and I don't want to drag him too much, because he's one of my closest friends on God's green earth. But
he's a great guy. Yeah.
When he first was talking about doing the Weezer thing, I was like, I think it's a good idea, because it's like it is part of who you are. It's like, you know, stuff you're interested in, right? That helps feed your jokes. And he was like, okay, but like, how much should I do of it? And I was like, I have no fucking clue. Like, this was way before I got anywhere near being, you know, starting out in comedy and stuff like that. So like, no idea. And I remember he asked a bunch of people and they were like, you know, do as much as you want. And I remember the first time he did Weezer material, he did a full just 10 minutes straight of Weezer.
Oh my God.
And I was losing my shit laughing in the audience.
I bet more laughing at him, like, being embarrassed, or was it like legit?
It didn't even do that bad. It just didn't like I think people were waiting for, you know, like how people say that there's like anti-jokes where like a joke goes on for a certain amount of time and it kind of stops being funny, but then if it keeps going on, it kind of starts being funny again.
For sure.
I think people were waiting for some kind of a like an overarching punchline about Weezer, and then it just never came. So it was almost funny, like funnier that way. Oh, it's a great time. But yeah, I wasn't even a huge Weezer guy until he got like really into it and we started getting really close, and he was like showing me all these B-sides and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, fair enough.
Okay, this is that.
Okay.
I can do that.
Oh.
So this is you so far. I'll give you a little update. I don't know. I started getting a little too serious, and I was like, well, how can we make this like more or less?
I like it a lot, man. You make me look a lot better than I think I look. I love the hair, the like almost Dragon Ball Z kind of hair going on.
Yeah, baby.
Love it.
You're Goku.
Little Super Saiyan in the morning action. I like it.
Super Saiyan in the morning, Super Saiyan in the evening, Super Saiyan
at dinner time.
That was really awkward. All right.
So this is, this is where I'm at with you so far. It's looking looking a little Picasso, a little Jackson Pollock kind of area here.
I feel like there's like just like he looks totally normal, but he's got a touch of cubism.
A little bit.
Like if he had a disease, it would be cubism.
Yeah, I'm really. I was not prepared. I thought making round lines would be a lot easier than it has so far proven to be.
Don't judge too harshly. It looks great.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I think yours looks amazing. I think that's my favorite part about art, and I've said it. I've done art on my stream a few times, and I think my favorite part about it is just how much the community, or if you're in a good community, it's so non-judgmental. It's so exactly like you're saying. It's not about who's doing it the best, who's the greatest, most amazing artist of all time. It's like
there's always going to be somebody, there always will be. And just as I think the whole thing is, don't let that stop you. As long as people are moving and actually creating, we're winning. Like all of us.
I love that. I think that's a very cool sentiment.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so we got through the intro music. What was it? What was it again? The specific song?
It's called "Solid Wall of Sound."
Wall of Sound.
Yeah, by Tribe Called Quest.
Very cool. I didn't see that coming. I did not see Tribe Called Quest coming. I do like that as an option though.
I try not to be that predictable. I mean, my Radiohead in the '90s thing was pretty predictable.
I mean, yeah, but again, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much unpredictability you can have in your life.
Exactly.
Our next one is from gifts.com, and it's, what's the worst advice you've ever given? What's the worst advice you've given someone else?
I think probably just stop.
Okay.
Like that's like telling people to stop generally is not within my realm of comfortability. And that I'm not talking about like just generally stop, as in like they're doing something mean to you. Stop. Of course, do that. But I'm saying that, if someone is exploring something and they're having a lot of fun with it, but you think it's an embarrassing thing, like there's some kind of judgment going on.
Mm-hmm.
On my part, for instance, telling them to stop doing it is really wrong. Because they're exploring something that's beautiful and it's theirs, and it's really just inappropriate.
Okay.
To tell someone that. And I've done it, like my little brothers at different points, right? I have two brothers.
Sorry, how many?
2.
Oh, okay. How much? What's the age? What's the age gap?
One's 2.5 years younger, and one's 10 years younger.
Oh wow. Okay, so one not so much, and then one pretty big gap.
One has a different mom. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, because I'm a younger brother myself.
Are you?
Yeah, there's a 6-year difference between me and my brother.
Do you just have one?
Yeah, just the one.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Shouts out to Nico watching at
Is he
home.
younger or older? You're young. Sorry, did you say that you
I'm
were
the younger one. Yeah, he was the older one.
Okay, that's good.
So
I
we
mean,
had our share of
being the
scuffs.
younger. I'm the oldest of three, but I've seen some serious shit happen with my other brothers that would have never flown for me. Plus, parents are way cooler with the younger ones. Like,
It's true.
like the older ones get shot on for sure.
They always say that the first one you like test stuff out and you don't necessarily know what you're doing, and then by the second one you know what you're doing, so you have like, your ideas a little better.
People think they can have kids without being educated, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got the parts. Let's make it. Let's just do it. It feels good.
It feels good. Let's give her a shot. I don't know.
You know, in this world, when something feels good, it means it's healthy.
It's true.
That's all I'm saying.
I've heard that. I've heard that before. That's a confirmed fact.
Nice.
So just stop. So you're saying if people are picking up a new skill, a new talent, something like per example, art or comedy.
It's like operating from a place of impurity, but like that was just an example. It's like just operating from a place of like not understanding my own motivation is always the first place to give any advice from, no matter what that advice is. So just for me, taking a beat, and I don't always do this. I'm kind of a reactionary person sometimes, but taking a minute and going, okay, well, how can I be healthier in this scenario, regardless of what they're doing?
So, because sometimes maybe the thing that someone's doing, you don't want to necessarily tell them to stop doing it, but maybe you want to kind of get them to a different, maybe guide them or lead them. So what's your replacement for just stop? Because I'm totally with you on the statement of the idea of, letting people explore the space and figure themselves out and stuff like that.
Well, if they're coming to me with something they're proud of or whatever, I can just support the fact that they're creating, right? Mm-hmm. Like the fact that, that's neat. Where are you going? Like, even if it isn't that necessarily that technically great, it's not my job to tell them that unless they ask.
Okay, so you just kind of wait for the moment where they say, like, hey, can you...
I try to. I'm not always successful, but I do try to. I do try to give people the opportunity. Like, if they're coming to me with something and you see that expression on their face, oh my God, I'm having such a good time, I'm encouraging that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to keep, like that, that fire alive.
Exactly.
I think that's a very amicable
I'm drawing your aura right now.
Yeah. You're like almost done. I'm sitting here like trying to get some shading in the hair. I'm hoping the color saves me.
I'll do a second one. I am done. There's me done.
Let's take a look here. Oh man. Oh God, it looks so good.
Dude, you're going Super Saiyan.
I'm a Super Saiyan, man. That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Holy shit.
Yeah. I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure, man.
Damn.
Yeah, I'll sign it.
I think I got the hair down. I'm very proud of my hair so far on our boy here.
Let me see. Yeah, it's pretty good.
I
mean, you're kind of expanding my bald spot a little.
I'm planning your hat.
Oh, you're gonna. Oh, yeah, you're doing it from the one with the toque.
Yeah, and I'm planning the hat because I remember one of the things I've been around a lot of artists, and they always say wherever you can find a shortcut, do it.
Yeah.
And I know that like hats, gloves, boots, anywhere you can cut a corner.
I think it's more like you do that stuff until doing the other thing takes just as much time.
Exactly.
Yeah, like your skill level gets to the point where you can actually. I'm just plugging in my phone here. Where you can actually. Ooh, okay. 1% power, nice.
Nice. That was almost a problem.
Wow, that was really close. I can relax now. Did you notice how I spelled your name?
Oh, I can't. Oh,
it's carnival style.
Beautiful. Oh, right? I didn't even see that. What an amazing finishing touch. I love that.
Detail. Yeah. You want me to put a dog over here? Let's put a dog.
Give me a dog. Give me like a little little ukulele.
Have you ever had a dog?
I've always wanted a dog, but I've had cats and fish have always been what I've had.
Do you have any animals right now?
I have a cat. I have a sweet little fur baby named Checkers.
Checkers. I have Arya.
Ooh, nice.
She's about 8 years old. I guess you can imagine why I named her Arya. Yeah, she's cute. She's so amazing.
It's funny. I wanted a dog because I like I said, I've always had cats, and I'm more of a dog person. But I feel so bad watching dogs in apartment buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Because like they, especially my apartment's kind of small. They don't get the chance to roam around, and I had just started doing comedy when I got her, so I was out of the house a lot, and I was like, yeah, I feel like having a dog is probably it was just felt irresponsible.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, I've had several dogs, and the last one I had, Chase, he was a palliative foster.
Okay, yeah.
So he was dying, and we palliative fostered, like me and my ex-wife. We palliative fostered twice, and it's very rewarding. But I was pretty done after the last one.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think I can do it anymore, just because it just eats you alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest part of having a pet, right? Is when something bad happens to them. Like,
for sure.
It's
Let me just
so hard.
Is your cat fast?
She's a bit of a chunky. We call her chonkers.
Chonkers, nice.
She's a bit of a thick girl.
Yeah, mine's very thick. She has triceps.
Really?
Yeah, she'll sit down right by you, and she'll just like look over her shoulder with her arm like this.
She's just flexing at you.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus, man, don't
flexing at you like a dude at the gym, just like looking in the mirror and kind of locking eyes.
Yeah, she walks in the door from Planet Fitness. All right, let's get another picture up here. What other picture should I do of you?
Oh man, there's so many. I don't think there's a single good picture of me on Facebook. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
They're almost exclusively awful.
Not awful. I love those ones that are like the faded little kid pictures. Like there's one on my screen right now. It's of you in like grade 8 commencement or something.
Oh my god, yeah. My grad picture. Yeah. I love that picture. I look like such a goober.
You are a goober. It's okay. You know what's nice? Your 18th picture. That's a nice picture.
My which one?
It's just like straight on. It looks like you were trying to do like an at-home headshot.
Oh yeah. That was from when I was in college. Me and a buddy of mine took our own headshots because we were trying to apply to. I don't remember where we were trying to apply to. We were trying to apply somewhere, and they required a portfolio and a headshot. So we were like, oh shit, like we gotta get headshots. So we like rented cameras, rented like a studio space, and took a bunch of pictures.
Nice.
I used that as my headshot for a long time.
You a WWE fan?
I am a big WWE fan. I'm not
a wrestling fan myself, but with my name, people have always been, and with the silly power team thing that I do every once in a while.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, like a wrestler. Like, no.
It would be an amazing wrestler name, I will say. Mike Payne. Mike Payne sounds like every independent wrestler I've ever seen in the last 10 years. And I mean that in as a complimenting way as possible.
I got the picture of you as Sting in front of me.
Oh yeah, I was so proud of myself
not like
for that.
Original, like Ultimate Warrior Sting.
No, yeah, it was good 90s Sting.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not a wrestling fan, but I do know a little bit.
It's so weird that like there's a certain generation of people, like there's a certain age group where you just know certain things about wrestling because it was so big in the 90s.
It really was. It was huge. Also, the video games were great.
Oh, the video games beat ass.
I go over to my buddy's house, we played the game, and then wrestling would come on. I felt kind of like forced into it.
Oh yeah, I long before I was a wrestling fan, because I didn't become a wrestling fan until high school.
Yeah.
But like when I was a kid, like I had an N64, so I had NWO versus what is it? NWO versus WCW World Tour, I think it was one of the old classic N64 games.
Right.
And I had no idea who anyone was, so it was just like, oh, this guy looks cool. This guy, this guy looks cool. This guy's big. This guy's fast. Whatever, right? And then as I got older, it was like the PS2 games, and like still I had no idea who anyone was. I just was like, I didn't even start watching wrestling until long after I stopped playing the games. And then I picked the games back up with this new knowledge, and it's interesting to go back and be like, oh yeah, there's that guy and that guy and that guy. Like,
You big Mega Man fan?
a huge Mega Man fan.
Dude, me too. I played one of the first video games I ever owned was Mega Man 6.
Ooh, nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah, on normal Nintendo, way back in the day. Normal Nintendo, the first Nintendo.
Yeah.
Super Famicom, if you're from Japan.
Very nice.
Yeah, that was a ton of fun. I love that game. I'm actually drawing you as Mega Man right now.
That's literally, I think the child inside of me just like exploded. That's all I ever wanted.
Child inside of you came? That's
pretty
gross.
much.
Oh my god!
I realized midway through my sentence where it was going, and I was like,
I heard it going in that direction. Like, is he going to? And I just had to bring it there for you.
That's gonna get you in trouble. See, that's the thing. As the host, I have to avoid that. But if you say it, I can't control my guests.
No, and you're not going to.
Yeah, I can't control it. He was out of control, man. I don't know what to do. Okay.
This is so much fun. I'm having so much fun right now, dude.
Man, I'm so glad to hear that. The number one thing I always wanted to do when I was planning this out was like, I just want to have fun with someone and chat with them.
Right.
Because I find people's interests so fascinating, like what people are passionate about and what they really like, get torqued about. I think it's super interesting. And like, so I was like, I just want to make a show where I do things that people are passionate about and talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just use these weird non sequiturs to get us there.
Hey, it's working for me, man. I'm feeling pretty inspired right now. I'm having a good time.
Speaking of weird non sequiturs,
I'm trying to give you a Buster Cannon. I'm like making you your own guy, but it's like based on what is this, Mega Man X or some shit? I don't even know this one.
Oh, it's Zero! Oh my god,
it's kind of based roughly on Zero.
Zero is my favorite growing up. That's oh my god.
It's one of your profile pictures from like ages ago.
Yeah, that's why, because I was so into the first game. One of the first games I ever beat all the way through was Mega Man 2. So 2 or 3. Yeah. And then like I loved the music, I loved the game, I loved everything about it. And then when I was a kid, Mega Man X was really big. And Zero was like this cool, he's like the generic anti-hero, right? Like he's this cool, edgy, he doesn't care about the rules.
Dude, he's Knuckles.
He's Knuckles, exactly. And I like Knuckles too. It was like,
yeah, he's great.
It was perfect for that era.
They used an echidna in a video game to me was amazing.
It's insane. You imagine they're looking through all the mammals and they're like, all right, well, a hedgehog's kind of weird. Like, let's get him a fox. Everyone knows what a fox looks like. Okay, cool. What's next?
Exactly. Also, I wish that they'd included more about him eating ants. But that's my one.
Can you imagine? They just have a mini game in Sonic 3 and it's just Knuckles running around conducting ants.
Exactly.
Just mash the buttons to make him eat faster.
How does Knuckles go fast? He eats ants.
He's just constantly full of food. He burns calories like a bastard.
All right, so this is you so far. Here, let's see. It's a little more challenging.
Ooh, okay. Can
you see any?
I'm a little blurry here. Ooh, okay, I see. Ooh, oh man.
I'm giving you glasses, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Gotta get those sharp lines.
You could be Mega Man Phantom. That would be cool.
Ooh.
Made up one name.
So speaking of complete non sequiturs, this one is one of my favorite questions that I've found so far. It's from a conversation starters blog. Didn't have a name. It's what is your go-to conversation starter?
Go-to conversation starter? How are you?
Really? Just the classic?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can... Because people will go, oh, I'm fine, or I'm good, and how are you? And then I'll be like, well, I had a day. It started off pretty good, but then I ended up at work or blah, blah, blah. And I'll give a genuine answer, and then it opens things up because it's disarming.
Mm-hmm.
And people start to tell you interesting things.
Okay, so you're a pretty open book then kind of guy. You just kind of...
I really am, and I always have been, and I hated that about myself growing up, but I couldn't really avoid it.
Right.
So now I love it.
Cool.
Just makes certain interactions very easy.
Yeah, so it's funny because it's such a simple conversation starter, but it is true that it's like, they always say that people like talking about themselves, right?
Yeah, people. Well, they're not comfortable because they don't know you. You know. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
why not start with something like it's almost like a treaty. You know,
Okay.
striking up a treaty with someone. Like we don't know each other. Your potential for harm in the scenario is pretty low anyway, even though you're going to react like it's higher because of your own personal experiences through your whole life.
Right.
So why not just make it easier by giving you something that you could hurt me with?
Interesting. So
That's
you
how
give
I
up the first. You give up the first kind of edge.
Yeah, that first pawn.
Interesting.
Yeah.
First pawn. Are you a chess guy? Are you a chess kind of guy?
Not really. I'm not bad at it, but I'm not great either.
Mm-hmm.
I played. I used to travel across North America playing a game called HeroClix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'll grab one. Hold on.
That was a big thing. I remember HeroClix. That was huge. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah, it was for a little while, and then it went away, and then it came back. I'll bring over a really cool one. So nasty. Holy shit. There we go. So this is a Professor Zoom. It's Black Lantern Professor Zoom.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they're really, really well made.
Man, that was the one thing I remember. I really wanted to get into it because I was in high school. I was into Magic the Gathering, and so there would always be like Fridays was Magic night. I think like it was like Fridays was Magic, Tuesdays was Pokemon, Wednesday was Yu-Gi-Oh, and Thursday was HeroClix.
Right.
And so I'd see people, and I was so. You and me were talking about this the earlier too about how we're both comic book guys, and I was so into specifically Green Lantern in DC, so it was perfect for me. And I saw all these, all these DC characters, and they had all these different sets, and I was like, but like, you can only be into one collectible card game at a time.
Well, reasonably, unless you make really good money, in which case, I don't know what you're doing playing these games half the time.
Yeah. By the time you make enough money to play them, you don't have time to play them.
It's expensive, though. Like, I used to pay, I probably spent about $350 a month playing the game for a while.
Oh, yeah. Because it's, especially if you're doing like you were doing where you're like traveling around, it gets expensive.
Competitive meta? Yeah. Competitive meta, modern. It's the same as Magic in that way. They release a new set, and then they retire sets once a year, So it's only like 2 years worth of sets that are actually modern.
Yeah, okay.
Same kind of deal.
Yeah, so very similar. Because that was the thing that always kept me away from getting too into Magic the Gathering, is that I was always like, I can't justify spending the money on this.
Yeah, it is very pricey.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're pre-painted.
Okay.
Some people do paint them anyway. Like I hand painted it. It won't come through here because the camera isn't good enough. But I hand painted one of the Ninja Turtles a little while ago.
Cool.
Yeah, because they do have Ninja Turtle, which was a fairly recent property that was added to their roster. Here he is, little Leonardo.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, and you can't see it, but I did like a gloss on the shell to make it look really good.
Are you a big Ninja Turtle guy? You a big Ninja Turtle guy?
I'm like a nostalgic Ninja Turtle guy. Like
okay.
I loved, that was my thing in the 80s, right? Like I loved when it first came out. I loved watching the TV show and then the eventual movie, which was fantastic. I saw it in the theater. That was great.
Nice.
And Jen's reminding me right now. I watched it again last night. It's great.
Still holds up.
Yeah, the first one does.
Totally holds up. All set till the day I die.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm just drawing you a sword here. Holy crap. Let's see. How do we add a sword to a thing? Well, I'm just copying another image, so that's good. Oh, his hands are so big.
I'll take that as a compliment. You know what they say about guys with big hands?
The baby hands. Yeah, they got big gloves. Oh my god, I'm officially a dad. I think you just made me into a dad.
I'm so glad I could do that because that's one of my favorite jokes.
Yeah.
As a human being, I like me and my brother are famous for when we're around new people. It's almost like we're like doing an act where we're like bouncing off these awful jokes off each other.
Right. Yeah.
And people are always like, "Do you guys plan this?" And we're like, "No, we just have really stupid, shitty sense of humor. In our hearts, we're just boomers."
They're just yours, man. There's nothing shitty about it. It's good that people are trying.
Man, I love you. Got such a positive outlook. I love that, man.
Well,
Kudos
most
to you.
days I can try, but then you got the other days where you're just like, god damn it,
Yeah.
god damn it, man. What's going on with the world right now? When am I gonna get to do comedy again?
That's true.
Yeah, but you know.
And hey, no one's on all the time, right?
No.
That's-
Well, there are a handful of performers that I've met that I'm like, you must be on all the time because I've never seen who you really are.
It's crazy in the performer circles to find those people who are like, I don't know if this is a bit or not.
Right.
There's a few people like that where I'm like, I don't know if this is a bit. I don't know if this is serious. Like there's the comedians or even just the people who have like a really dry sense of humor, and you're like, do you hate me?
Yeah.
Did I piss you off at some point?
Have trouble expressing themselves. You know, and most of the time it's confusing for me, but at the same time it's probably worse for them because they literally don't know how to express themselves like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What color are your eyes? I can't tell from this picture.
I do try to find the compassion, you know what I mean? It doesn't always work. I can be pretty bitter sometimes.
Nah, like I said, no one's on all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness, I'm loving this. This is great. Let's see, where are you at? Oh, you gave me nice pink skin.
I did.
Did I ever tell you about my racist grandma?
Oh my god. Okay, wait, really quickly. What color are your eyes?
Blue.
Okay, cool. Tell me about your racist grandma.
So it's so embarrassing. It's so cringy. She's 96. She's still around. About, I don't know, 8 years ago, she was visiting from Edmonton. And we're sitting down together. It's just one-on-one, having a cup of cocoa, you know?
Yeah.
Sitting across from each other at this table, and she decides, well, this is the perfect time to ask the question of the day, which is, how is your love life?
Oh, no.
And I said, oh, it's great, Grandma. I met a girl. Her name's Caroline. She's wonderful. She's very kind. And she's really into me. I think you'd really like her.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandma, without missing a beat, said, is she Chinese?
Oh, no.
And I went, no. I think she knew that I dated some Asian women previously.
Okay.
Asian background women. And then she said, is she Korean?
She's just going down the line.
She's just going down. Like, I realize at this point, she's going down a long list of most acceptable non-whites to least acceptable non-whites in her mind.
Oh, no.
So it's going like Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, Filipino, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all, I don't know why they're all Asian, too. But, you know, it's her racism, not mine. So I'm not really look at it any closer. And so I say to Grandma at that point, I said, no, Grandma, she's black.
Okay.
And my grandmother got up and moved over 2 seats and sat back down.
Oh, no.
And she said, oh, Michael, keep the skin pink.
Holy shit. No way.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh,
it's
my God.
Insane. It's totally insane. The weirdest part about this is that my grandmother was married to my grandfather. So my grandma's, Canadian, but she's, more than half Irish and the rest is German.
Okay.
But she was married to my grandfather, who Canadian born, but his parents were from Jamaica.
Oh.
And before that, India and England. So he was a lot darker than I am.
Okay.
So she was married to a guy who was visibly not white.
Right. He's mixed race, right?
Yeah. And so why would you want that for me? And so I'm thinking, well, maybe it's because she's a redhead and I'm a redhead. And she's like, well, we are the pink people.
Okay. And
so the conclusion I came to is that in her 96 years, somewhere along the line, she caught the racism bug. And she'd been doing it for so long that it was artisanal. You know what I mean? Like, so oddly specific. It's like, no, nothing else will do for my redheaded grandson.
It is very specific.
And now this is 8 years later. So I didn't talk to her for a couple of years. I was really upset.
Yeah.
And then couple years, like this is 8 years later, and I've got a new girlfriend now, Jen, and her background is Argentinian and Italian. And so grandma's asking me to meet Jen because she has the same name. My grandma's named Jen too. And I'm like, all right, grandma, sure, we'll get you there eventually.
Yeah.
And she starts asking, so what's her background? And I said, Grandma, are we doing this again? Because, you know, I don't want to do this. And she says, oh, come on, what's her background? And I said, oh, Italian. And before I got to say, you know, and Argentinian, she just looks at me and raises her eyebrows. And she goes, I don't want yourself.
Oh, shit.
What the fuck?
It is very. It's very custom. It's like the Lego of racism. It's very.
It's so weird,
It's very
man.
DIY.
I don't get it. I don't think I'm supposed to get it though.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. When I always say I don't get racist, and then my roommate says that's a good thing. So.
Yeah, I just, you know, it's funny through all this. Like right now, we're going through a crazy time, and I don't know when you're airing this, but yeah, with the race riots going on, I'm really upset. Personally, I find the whole thing so unbelievably stupid.
Of course.
And upset. Like, why would a group of people need an advocacy group to just so that people would know that they matter?
I mean, but that's just, unfortunately, you know, it's the world we live in, right?
The truth. It's the truth of the moment, for sure. They do need this, but they shouldn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so upsetting. It's so incredibly upsetting. We don't need, I don't know.
It's
Anyway, I'm trying to look internally too, because, you know, I do know what I look like. I know where I came from, and I definitely have benefited from some level of white privilege, if you want to call it benefiting. And I don't necessarily know what it is.
It is.
But you start to see little bits, you know, that you just assume are normal, and it's like, it's not. It's just not.
It's one of the biggest, you know, first hurdles, right? When you start reading into these things and talking to people about it, is that you got to like, the first thing you got to do is look at yourself and be like, okay, like, you know, how has this impacted me? How have I, you know, it's true. I don't know if you were like this when I first started, you know, getting more socially active and things like that. I started to like nitpick everything, and I was like, oh my God, like, you know, I did this and this and this and this, and I beat myself up over it, which obviously you can't do, because then you'll just
for sure,
crazy.
Yeah, it's hard to be. It's that's when I try to just stop and take a breath, because it doesn't help anything, and it doesn't always work. I'm sure Jen's seen me freak out a bunch of times. What? Never. Thank you.
How's
yeah, just slowing down and allowing, like listening, you know?
Yeah, of course. That's what it's all about. It really is it's about listening, and not the listening where you're like, oh yeah, sure, blah blah blah, where you like legitimately
until they tell us it's something else, and then it's that, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to continue to try to be vigilant about that.
That's really, I mean, it's really all you can do.
Exactly. Anyway, it's a weird thing to bring up in the middle of this fun art podcast.
I was going to say,
But
it's interesting where the show goes.
Yeah.
So, I think, personally, holy shit, I look so cool, man. Oh, man.
You're looking pretty cool, dude. I look cool as shit. Dude, I look like one side of my face, I don't know, Bell's palsy a little bit.
A little bit. I was going to go back and fix it, and I tried, and I couldn't do it. So I call it, it's like you're smiling. Like
I like it, though. I actually really like it. Can I make it my profile picture?
I would be honored. Oh, my God.
When you release this, I'll make it my picture.
I would be honored.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm happy with my drawing. I don't think it's getting any better at the very least.
I think it's badass, dude.
Our question from social media, is what's your opinion on grilled cheese, and do you add anything to it? And that was from Facebook.
I have a prepared answer. No, I've thought about this a lot. I love grilled cheese like more. It's if I could eat it every meal, I would. It's one of my absolute favorite things. And I make a really good grilled cheese.
Do you add anything to it, or are you just a straight up bread and cheese kind of guy?
That, except for when I burned Jen's the other day. But so by definition, a grilled cheese is bread, cheese, and butter or oil sometimes. Fat. And when you add things like tomatoes, or when you add anything into the middle of it, it's no longer a grilled cheese; it is a melt. That's just by
interesting.
That's just by definition.
Okay.
But I like adding stuff. Like I like tomatoes in it sometimes. Pepper and tomatoes. That's the shit.
But then we can't call it a grilled cheese. That's your hardline stance.
Really? Yeah. I mean, have you had a patty melt before?
Oh yeah.
So that's not a Canadian thing though. Like for us, that's a foreign thing.
Yeah, that's like a mid-south thing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. They have them. So the first time I had a patty melt, I believe it's from the South anyway. I could be wrong. I had it in Atlanta. I went to Atlanta to play HeroClix. I was in the World Championship there.
Wow.
And or Rock Worlds rather. And they have Waffle House. So we went to Waffle House and I saw this thing called a patty melt. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And really, it's like putting a grilled cheese in the middle of or putting a hamburger patty in the middle of a grilled cheese.
Is Waffle House as good as people say it is?
No, it's cheap. It's super, super cheap, and they have the biggest menu you've seen for a diner, but it's classic diner. So, like, if you love the classic grilled cheese, where it's just like, American cheese or cheese slices, as we like to call them here, and bread, like cheap Wonder Bread or whatever, or Dempster, then that's great. You're not going to go wrong. They're going to make that exactly the way you want it to be made. But it's not going to be like a gourmet version of it. Like, I like taking some Jarlsberg with a little bit of Parm or Pecorino and a sharp cheddar, like a Boulder cheddar.
Mm-hmm.
And you grate it. You don't do it in slices. You grate it and you put it inside of it. And then just like grease it. So you grease the pan, grease the top of the thing, and flip it over once. That's it. Man,
you really, this was the perfect question to ask you. I didn't even know that going in, that you're an aficionado of grilled cheese.
I've just made a lot of them. Do you use the pot lid technique?
Okay, explain to me the pot lid technique. That's interesting.
So you know how, like, when you make a grilled cheese, if the pan is too hot, you burn the bottom of the grilled cheese 100% of the time? Well, so the reason why you're doing that is because you're trying to melt the cheese before you flip it. Right? So if you have it at a reasonable temperature and then you put a pot lid on it, the heat gets trapped inside and cooks the cheese. And then you flip it and it's perfect golden brown.
Interesting. Do you want to? Okay. Speaking of the difference between grilled cheese and melts, I said earlier that I worked in kitchens. I think this is gonna. I think with your strong hardline stance on grilled cheese, this is gonna drive you up the wall.
Yeah, that's okay.
I have made grilled cheese in every restaurant I've ever worked in, and never once have I in a pan made a grilled cheese for a restaurant. It's been the first restaurant I ever worked in was a pizza joint. And the way they did their grilled cheese is you would take the bread and you would put like the burger sliced cheddar.
Yeah.
You put a slice and a half on each side and you put it in the pizza oven. Those big conveyor ovens?
Yeah.
You put it in the pizza oven and you put them together, cut in half, serve it.
Okay. And is it really good?
Not even at all.
It's not good.
Worst possible way to make a grilled cheese.
Really?
Because the cheese gets crispy, which is nice. It's different, right? You're basically taking two melts and putting them together with nothing inside. But then the bread doesn't get as crispy. I don't know.
That's like two cheese toasties put together.
Yeah, I mean, it tastes like cheese and toast. It just, you know what I mean? You don't get that, like, that buttery, super savory kind of flavor to it.
Right.
So, can we get a quick side-by-side, actually, of your caricatured and my caricature.
Which, the original?
The original, yeah.
Sure.
Of our finished products. Beautiful. I can't tell the difference. Who's the artist is the thing here.
Who did it real?
I
Who does
can't
it
tell.
regularly?
Yeah, I can't tell.
I can't either, man. I think these are our new profile pictures as soon as we put up this this episode. Or you can use the Mega Man.
I am 1,000. I'm going to use both. I'm 1,000% using those. I think those are so sick.
Yeah. I'm getting there with the Mega Man too. It's almost done.
If you'll allow me, I'm gonna set up our next segment here while you just finish. It looks like you're doing your line work there.
Yeah, I got lots to do still. Yeah, go ahead.
So, we're winding down on the show. We've had a lot of good conversation here. The last thing that we do here on Let's Be Best Friends is something that we call the lightning round.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put 1 minute on the clock, and I'm gonna ask you this or that questions: cookies or cake, cats or dogs, things like that.
Okay.
And I want you to give your answers as fast as you can. As soon as they come to your head,
Right.
just spit them out. And then
Sure.
I'm going to compare your answers to my prepared answers. And we're going to see how close we are to becoming best friends.
Sounds good, bro. Do
So,
it.
if you're ready, I have a minute on the clock here. And
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Cookies or cake?
Cake.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Console games or computer games?
Console.
Pop music or rock music?
Rock music.
Stuffed animals or dolls?
Stuffed animals.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Ooh. Hot chocolate or coffee?
Coffee.
Morning or evening?
Evening.
Text message or call?
Call.
Libraries or museums?
Museums.
Nice. Theater or cinema?
Cinema.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Summer. And love or money?
Love for sure.
That's my boy.
Yeah.
I will say, I'll leak one thing. You failed one of the most important questions. We don't. Let's not call it failing. We have a disagreement on one of the most important questions, which is pancakes or waffles. Waffles are clearly superior.
Okay, waffles are different though. Like I like them too, but they're like a different. So I think of waffles as a vessel,
Okay.
and I think of pancakes as standalone.
So pancakes
So
is
waffles
the food.
are a
Waffles is
vessel for like chocolate or other things to put on, like whipped cream and stuff like that, or fruit or chicken. You know, versatile in that way. Whereas pancakes are even crepes are different, but pancakes are just meant to have like a little bit of butter and some 100% Canadian maple syrup on it.
God bless. We had theater or cinema. You said cinema. We had summer, winter. You said summer. Love or money. You said love, which is clearly the wrong answer.
Yeah, stupid. That guy's really stupid.
Look at this guy. He wants love. He wants to be emotionally fulfilled. All right.
I want to be filled with your emotion.
What'd you say?
I said it in a creepy way. I said, I want to be filled with your emotion.
I want to be filled. I want to be emotionally satiated.
Satiated.
So, our expert mathematics and calculators have calculated the answers here. We have a total score of 11 out of 13, which
Oh, that's pretty
I
good.
think that's the highest score we've had on the show so far.
Oh, really? That's great.
I think so. I'd have to look back, but I'm
Are
pretty
you a
sure.
summer person?
I'm a winter person. I'm a snow kind of guy.
Oh, we missed on that one.
We missed on pancakes and summer winter. Otherwise, down the line.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I used to be a winter guy, and I became a summer guy in the last few years.
I think
Just because I had to spend time. I had to spend a lot of time outside just painting.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You kind of have to. You know, you have to start it, or you're in trouble.
That makes sense though, because I imagine it's a lot harder to paint in the winter than the summer.
Oh yeah, it's I get paid more.
Oh really? I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, because it is a lot more challenging, especially with ladder work. Like most people won't do ladder work. It's just too difficult.
Well, yeah, wind and ice and all those different factors, right?
Well, no ice because you don't do exterior in the winter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. It's more like just being able to get up and go up high like that. It's a skill.
Interesting.
In and of itself. You kind of have to fool yourself in a way, unless you're one of those psychopaths who is not afraid of heights at all.
Oh, you're not a heights guy?
I don't mind them now. I don't even think about it most of the time when I'm painting.
Okay.
But when I was younger, yeah, it fucking freaked me right out. I had a summer, like my first summer painting ever. My first job, dude, he was not very good with safety in general.
Okay.
But he asked me, "Your timer's going up." He got me to go up onto the like third floor exterior, 35 feet up.
Oh my god.
Immediately. So I had to learn.
Day one?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was nuts.
I wouldn't say I'm afraid of heights, but I definitely that's extreme. That's a lot for your day one.
Yeah, I think if you're not afraid of that, there's something wrong with you. Because,
that's just a fight or flight. That's a real life thing.
Yeah, unless you've conditioned yourself to do it, it's just not a natural thing for us to be doing. Oh my god, I am almost done.
I'm so excited to see it. I want to thank you for being on the show at this point in time. If you have anything you'd like to plug, if you have any social medias you'd like to plug, anything going on, right now is the perfect time.
I don't have a whole hell of a lot going on right now. I'm just trying to draw more because it's something I can do during this.
Mm-hmm.
I was recruited, as you said, to the Comic Sans agency, which is great, and I hope that it really starts to take off with more Zoom shows. But also, once this thing all goes down, we get to do our JFL showcase that was postponed.
Oh, good.
Right? Indefinitely, rather, not indefinitely. It was inevitable.
Inevitable.
Inevitable. Aside from that, yeah, I don't know. What else am I doing these days? There really isn't a whole lot going down. I think it's just mainly just trying to cope with, less work, etc. Although that being said, as I said before, I did start back at work, so
right.
I'm feeling much better in that regard.
So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Mike Payne Comedy, right?
Yep, that's it.
YouTube?
YouTube is Mike Payne Toronto.
Perfect. Mike Payne Toronto.
Yeah.
If you're watching, if you're listening at home, make sure you check him out, Mike Payne Comedy. One of my new best friends, an absolute joy, an excellent guest, beautiful artist, a lovely, look at this. God, I'm so jealous. That looks so cool. I'm so pumped for that to be my Facebook picture. Thank you, Mike Payne, you lovely, beautiful man, for being on the show. I want to take this time to thank all of my best friends out there listening to the podcast, whoever you listen to your podcast or watching on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, do all those kind of cool algorithm things because it really helps the show out. If you want, you can follow me at OldKingCake on all the social medias. Let'sBeBestFriends.com is where all these episodes get posted. OldKingCake.com also to keep up with me. If you want to submit any questions to the show, you can go to any of those social media links and submit questions to the show. We love getting questions. As you see, they're some of my favorite questions because we get some of the best answers, like our excellent discussion we just had about grilled cheese. I'd also like to thank Isabel Wing for the intro to our podcast, Let's Be Best Friends, and Seth Feldman for the outro. And without further ado, if we're ready to go, that's all the time we have for this week. And remember, your mom was your best friend at one point, so give her a call. And we'll see you next week.